welcome to the European Dodgeball Federation post-Euros podcast, first of its kind, where we're going to discuss a bunch of different things about the Euros. So we're going to go through mixed, men's and women's. We've got some players that are joining us, and we'll have a chat about their experience about dodgeball for their country and how well things have gone for them. But first of all, let's introduce our hosts and the main people that we're going to be hearing a lot of, but they'll be helping us lead this conversation about the European Dodgeball Championships that were in Croatia. So first of all, I'm going to introduce Max. Max, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Max. I'm currently filling the position for president of the European Dodgeball Federation. I'm also a coach, also a player. I think probably a lot of listeners might know me by now. But for people who don't know me, hi. We're going to talk dodgeball for the next couple of minutes or hours.
Perfect. And our other two guests, if you've been watching the European Championships, you probably at least heard the voices of. But first of all, Emily.
So I'm Emily Busby, formerly Emily, what most people know for my playing name. So I've been around dodgeball for quite some time now, but commentated this year at the Euros and very excited to chat to some people tonight about their experiences.
Cool. And last but not least, Jonathan.
Oh yeah, if you hadn't heard us enough already, you're about to hear us some more. As said, my name's Jonathan. Currently in the Scotland squad, but have been commentating the Euros and kind of just been involved with the media stuff. I think this is my 5th year of playing, so it's really nice to be involved quite heavily at this point in time.
Nice. So just quickly, Max, what was your perspective on this year's Euros and your thoughts on it? How's it gone from your perspective, and just general thoughts?
Yeah, so we have to be aware that this was just event ever on a European scale. Biggest tournament in terms of participating nations, biggest tournament in terms of participating teams. Each competition was the largest ever. So it's from an organizational and logistical standpoint, obviously it was a challenge. But we had a great tournament, so I think the feedback was very positive. I think the nations really enjoyed it. It was a quality tournament. The competition was great, and it was really focused on the sport. And we managed, or the Croatian organization managed, to give us the surroundings that the sport needs, and the sport certainly how do you say? It's I don't think it was for it right now, but it was a very good event from an organizational standpoint, and I think the results and the dodgeball we saw definitely proved that, because it was a massive dodgeball development and massive performance that the teams put on the floor each day.
Yeah, so John, you both have been commentating. This is, I think, both of your times first time doing Euros commentating, but it's the second Euros that we've had commentators, 2 courts this time over the full 4 days. What was your experience, first of all, volunteering as part of EDF and watching those games and being able to commentate? You go first.
Yeah, so for me it was really interesting seeing the other side of Euros. Having been to 4 Euros previously to compete, you don't get to fully immerse yourself in a way that we did with the commentating. We really get to see everybody play and really see how close everything was, because you just don't get that sense when you're just playing your own games. So that was really good. But yeah, it was just one of those things that somebody reached out to me to ask me to commentate, and it wasn't something I necessarily thought about before, but I'm so glad that I took up the opportunity and I really enjoyed it. This Euros was, I don't know if it was just because I was commentating this time, but I found it the most exciting Euros that I've been to, and I really got sucked into a lot of the play.
Yeah, good to hear though. And John, what about you?
I think it's just looking at kind of the production quality side is, we mentioned it a lot on stream, but people don't get how much was going on behind the scenes. And I think it did come across, especially in those final games and kind of the games leading up to it. But we had there was so much going on, and I guess Max is to thank for that because so we had Raf and we had his team behind the scenes, and from my personal point of view, commentating in kind of BD and the British leagues or the English league, sorry, the quality there is very much kind of volunteer run. Everything's as simple as we can make it. So when we step into the EDF perspective, where it was really complex and everything was running mostly very, very smoothly, it was really good fun and kind of amazing to be part of.
Nice. So yeah, it was like from my perspective, I was doing some photography and videography, so it was good fun being that close to the action. So many games going on, so many good games, competitive games. So hopefully we'll be able to have that discussion with some of the players and see what their take on it was. Max, is there anything you want to add or any other thoughts?
So I'm just trying to say the same thing as John and Emily before. So it was a massive step up from all aspects of the tournament. As John said, from the production level of the stream, obviously we didn't have that kind of stream production before. Worked smoothly throughout the tournament. We had a bunch of volunteers, 20, 25 people just helping out from an EDF side that flew in on their own costs. Then we had all the creations, organizers and helpers. So it's just a massive amount of human effort that went into the tournament. And this is reflected on the numbers. I mean, we have had 164 games within 4 days over 5 courts, sorry. So that's just a lot. And for that setup, I think it worked really well, and we saw some amazing dodgeball being played. And I think we've kind of set a standard now that obviously we want to keep, but we need to now make a transition to I don't know how to say, to not professionalism per se, but to keep that standard, we need to also bring in a little bit of more money to make it easy to keep that standard, because we had such an amount of volunteers that helped, and I think not every country or not every organization would be able to provide that amount of volunteers.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if we're going all the way across Europe as well, there's going to be some flights are going to be cheaper than others to get. So definitely helps. But yeah, no, it was really good and really well run, from my perspective at least. And yeah, the dodgeball was like this. Well, okay, I just want to give a word to Croatia and their facilities as well. Like, to have those 2 sports halls were really good. It was so much seating to watch. It made the finals really fun to sit in. Like, the crowd was really great. So much space. It was really, really, really well done, and a really good location for such a big growth of the sport and big growth of Euros. So here's to next time having even more in Ireland.
Yeah.
Cool. So who do we want to invite in first?
So I think when we're gonna start with the mixed competition, I think we can bring in one of the mixed players from who do we have from Netherlands, maybe?
Yep. Yeah. So first of all, starting with Mick Bass from Netherlands.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Hello.
Hello. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I did definitely have some post Euros fever, but what else can you do with 4 days filled with sports and a little sleep and then get to brave the elements again? And a lot of people, definitely a lot of people, which is a good thing, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. But yeah, so first of all, do you want to tell us a bit about your experience of Euros, how your team did, how things went? How did you feel like your mixed team did?
Well, let's start with how we prepared. I think this year we were very happy about our preparation. I think we professionalized a lot. Like, we did a lot more trainings with the whole team together. We had a head trainer, Pim Visser, who figured out all of the trainings and made us all be very competitive together, and I think that was really nice to see in a walk up to the tournament. And after that, of course, we were looking at our pool phase, where we had a pretty strong pool. It wasn't an easy one. Of course, we had Northern Ireland, we had Spain, Sweden, and Norway. It first of all, we had to play against Northern Ireland, which was a nice warm up. We were like, oh, that's great. We get to play on the highest level of games, and it's okay if we lose this. We got the other matches to warm up for, and we were very happy with that first match. I think it was 8-20 or 8-22 in the end. For us, we were happy with those 4 sets we took from them. I think we showed great play there. The team spirit was very high, so that was great. Next up was Spain, one which we knew they had very good individual efforts, and we were looking forward to playing them. But we also have some players that really need to temper the amount of play they will be getting, because they're playing both in men and mixed, or both in women and mixed. So we chose a few players to take a little bit more of a chill time against Spain, but I think we completely underestimated Spain, like a lot of people did, I think, this tournament. And that gave us a good wake-up call, where the few frustrations, of course, came out, but I cannot give anything other than props to Spain for setting up such a high level of play, in difference to the last year of course, where they just started. So that was beautiful to see, but also a little bit devastating for us, where we think, if we want to get out of this pool in second place, we really need to win this one. And then we have to fight our battle against Sweden, so we could maybe go through a second in the pool. But that didn't go as planned, because Spain, we started quite close to each other, but in the end it was a good match, but a difficult one, which we lost. And
yeah, I mean, at the end of it, you lost by 2 sets to what ended up being 4th place in the overall tournament. So I think a lot can be taken from that.
True, definitely, yeah. But I think in the end we can be really happy. But for us at that moment, where our expectations were, this will be a difficult but a doable win, it was ended up being quite a challenge, and a little bit too much of a challenge, and that put our motivation not down, but it took a little hit. And from there on, I think we still kept strong as a team, and we played some good dodgeball still. But
yeah, definitely.
It was, yeah.
I was going to ask. So, I mean, you were saying that players were playing both for Netherlands and for Netherlands mixed, and in the men's and women's as well. From a, I guess, coaching point of view, from a team standpoint, like, what was your expectation? Was it because you wanted your best players in all 3, or was it?
Yes, mostly because like last Euros in Drachten, when we organized it, of course, it was we did put our best players only on one team, and the other team just felt a little bit neglected. So for now, we wanted to, people were fit, people were ready, and we were feeling that we had some good chances there because of our preparation. So we were like, let's make sure we have a big team. So we had 14 people coming to each category, so we could always choose who we want to play. But of course, there's still a little bit in the difference in your A lineup and your B lineup, as in every nation you can find. So it was difficult to choose when to put in what and who. But I think we were expecting, or were hoping, to make top 7, 6-ish with the mixed. Ended up, of course, being in 14th place, where after the pool phase was done, we were looking more into making sure that everyone gets an experience in playing while remaining having fun in the game. So
yeah, I know. In that final game, your women just came off a brutal game against Northern Ireland to play in that mixed
yes,
match, and it was very late in the day. So
to be honest, the timings of the days we were pulling on the short end of the line because we always started with the first match and we ended with the last match.
yeah, no, and I mean Wales as well. Their women had done, also got to the quarters and they were doing pretty well as well. So I think quite a few of their women were mixed in with theirs as well. But I think their game was a bit earlier, so it happens with scheduling, I guess. But yeah,
it's not something we would ever blame. But
no. Just be fit and ready all day.
Exactly.
You have a whole year to prepare, or now 2 years to prepare for Euros. So
awesome. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, how did you feel about some of the countries using their position as development, and would it be something that, as the game gets bigger, that you would expect that potentially you might get specialist mixed players or specialist sort of women's and men's, so that you would have separate squads?
Yeah, it was quite interesting because, well, there's different countries that did different. Like some countries, Spain, really put their efforts into mixed, and then you had Switzerland, who just were like, oh, we're going to put our efforts on men. So I definitely think there's a big difference in ways of playing in mixed and in either men's or women's. So there's definitely a possibility that there will be more specialists if the sport in the countries grow and there's more people that are able to play on that level. Then there's definitely going to be specialists in there as well, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah. So how much emphasis do you put on mixed in your team? Like, is it that see them, just your men's and mixed divisions as pretty equal, or do you there's a bit more emphasis in terms of training on one particular division?
Well, because the sport in the Netherlands is it's still growing quite fast, but it's not big yet. So that means that when we get out to train, we train with all divisions together, and then it's easier to play mixed because you're more likely to put up 2 good squads against each other than in men's or in women's. So we train considerably more on mixed than we play on either men's or women's against each other, because it's more difficult to get that level of play up against each other.
Have you done any preparation for Worlds yet, or are you just basking in and recovering in from what Euros was?
Well, there hasn't been, but there's obviously been scheduling for Worlds. This will be the first Worlds we will attend, I think. Since last year in America and in Canada, there was we had some that wanted to go, but not enough people that could make the time for it in their schedule of life. And I think this year, well, of course, it's a lot closer. I'll be, yeah. So there's a lot.
Sorry, go on.
No, so there's a lot of planning in the different trainings we will have together, and also to bring in some new players as well that can, of course, go for the Central European Championships beforehand. So that's very nice that they or the Western European Championships that we will attend in Paris. So that's definitely one big step on our way to Worlds in Austria soon.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Is previously I think you were in CEC and now you're in the WEC.
Yes, definitely.
Nice. So you'll be playing teams like England and Wales and France and Spain. You can get
Spain, yeah. Range. Yeah, it will be good. I think it will be fun. I think every opportunity where you can play against other countries and have a good challenge there is a good opportunity where you can learn a lot from. So
Nice.
always excited for those moments.
Yeah.
Just from a Netherlands point of view, what do you think? Because you mentioned earlier about kind of you were aiming for that 6th, 7th kind of heights, and you didn't quite make it. What, from your perspective, do you think is the one thing that Netherlands need to work on in the mixed? And how would you say about going around doing it?
I think for our mixed, I think the division between the roles of men and women and the positions that they play, and when they come to life, and the catch work, of course, needs a lot of work for our squad. I think we have the opportunity to do, but if you look at finals that we see this year, then just the catches make such in that mix play, and the strategy by who are you going for first and why. I think that needs still a lot of development for us. So we will definitely be working on that, and other than that, just try to also raise the individual level of each player, so we have more time where we play together.
Got time for a couple more questions, or unless there's some other things you want to talk about Dutch dodgeball, or even your leagues? How are leagues going for you guys?
Well, leagues, since we're obviously all over the country. We have a club in the north. We have a club in near Amsterdam, which I attend to, but also Utrecht. We have places all over the country. That means that we don't get together every week or bi-weekly, but we have tournament days where we play all the squads together. We have, I think, 4 tournaments days planned this year, because it's going to be a quite busy schedule with the Western European Championships in there as well. Of course, we had the Euros now, so trying to plan that while having a lot of the active players in the over here that are going to all those tournaments and not have time to invest in the regional play in the Netherlands.
Fair enough.
So, but definitely it will be a lot of fun, because there's going to be, I think, at least 2 new squads. Rotterdam will have a team now. Hengelo will have a team. So it's going to be good fun.
Nice to hear the growth.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think definitely if you want to become better at a sport on the highest level, you need to make sure that the base is well fed, so you get a lot of input from different players, and you have more opportunities to play. That way you can grow your highest level as well.
Nice. Cool. Right. Well, thanks for joining us. I think we'll leave it there. But until next time, we'll see you at the Western European Championships, I'm sure, and at Worlds and at the next Euros. Hopefully.
Going to be awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Take care.
Yeah.
Right. We're joined by Meg Shine from Island Dodgeball. Is that the official name? What's the official association name called for Island Dodgeball?
It's the Republic of Ireland.
Republic of Ireland Dodgeball. Is that the full?
Yeah.
There we go. Cool. Right. From Republic of Ireland Dodgeball, Group A. I shall get that up. There we go. So Group A results. How are you, Meg? How are things for you? 2 weeks after Euros. How are you doing?
Well, I also had some, like the Euros flu, as it's commonly known, that went around. Maybe slightly more than flu. If anyone else had some little lines on a test that came up, I know that was going around some nations, and I think a lot of us caught that. And then just nursing injuries, and then I think the Euros blues hit quite hard. To take that kind of social break, it was absolutely amazing being there, but then coming back, it was gutting that it was all over so quickly. I think you think that 4 days of dodgeball is going to last forever, and all of a sudden it's over and you're home, and then it's back to normal life.
Normal dodgeball life, or just normal life?
No?
Yeah, it's hard to separate the two, I guess. So mixed Irish dodgeball. Tell us about your experiences. Preparation. How did it go for the Euros this year?
So when we started trialing earlier back in the year, we had quite a lot of new players, and then since COVID, we've had a lot of players kind of retire or step back, or step out of dodgeball. So it was kind of refinding where we were in terms of rotation and what we were going to do with that. And then looking at the team, we had so many new people come in, a lot of new bloods coming in, especially in the men's side, and then making the decision of how we were going to do our teams. I think in the last couple of years, maybe not including Worlds, because that was crazy over in Canada, especially for the Irish. But in terms of Euros, etc., we've done a lot of work on our men's and women's, and we've tried to develop players in our mixed team and then feed them into our men's and women's. But actually looking at the pool of players this year and the amount of experience that we had, we decided to build our strongest mixed team that we could. And not only was it a factor in terms of skill, etc., but it was also looking at people's experience and how people felt about the game, find out if people wanted to play or not. But then also knowing that it is a 4-day tournament, not knowing if it was going to be, 3 or 4 matches in the first few days each, and then going into the knockout stages a little bit earlier. We didn't know how that was going to be built. So we generally selected our mixed team either for just the mixed team or those who are playing men's and women's but have had experience of Euros before. Especially kind of our newer players this year, it was quite a lot, making sure that everyone balanced sleep, food, stretching, just kind of getting into it a little bit more. So that's how our kind of mixed team was formed, on lots and lots of different things, and then how people work together in terms of the different skills that they brought. So that was how it was pieced. I know that when I was asked to be in the mixed team at first, I actually said no, because I don't always enjoy mixed particularly. But then after going to Croatia and playing, we found our feet as a team, and it was absolutely brilliant. It was actually one of our highlights, I think, playing the mixed team.
Yeah, because you improved from last year, because obviously last year finishing 14th and this year getting to 11th. And the one thing I really enjoyed about you guys playing is that you played on the wing. And I love that, because there's so many mixed teams that rarely put a woman on the wing. And just kind of like, how did that dynamic fit into your mixed team? Was it just something that naturally came about? Was it something that you had to kind of like push for a little bit?
Well, generally in our squad, the male members of the team generally have stronger throws, which is quite natural. But then as we started playing, I remember our first game was against Serbia, which for us was a great score, definitely, shall we say. But then, and we didn't really, I guess, figure it out. I think that the challenge wasn't necessarily coming from both sides, so we didn't really find our groove, I wouldn't say, until our next match, which was against Switzerland. And even that was so tight going in. And then our final score was, I think we only won by 1 set. So as such a tight game, it just meant that we then had to figure out where we were going to play and kind of balance each other out, because I think I'd initially been put in at 5, so just inside the wing, but then our wing players were changing, and it depended if the mix had just played or the women had just played, depending on who was on court. So then when we got into the groove of that game, and in the Switzerland match, I remember, so I ended up on the left wing with Dave Cardoso, and we just slotted in and out really, really easily. So as much as generally the guys might start on the wing, it just happened that sometimes that stayed, or actually it ended up as me or one of the other girls on the wing as well. And I think when selecting the players in the beginning, that was, a fact of, as I said earlier, about where people were going to play in those positions that they might bring to the squad. So yeah, it was great. I love being on the wing, and it's definitely where I play better. So it was definitely worth it.
Definitely had an absolute time on the wing from what I saw anyway. You were definitely tearing it up there. But yeah, some real close games. Like you won by 1 to Switzerland and then lost by 1 to Italy straight after. Do you want to talk a bit about that? Like, it looks like in close games you guys keep it close, which is important. But then you've had 50-50 and being able to finish it off. From your experience, what's that difference to getting over that line in dodgeball, at least, when there's that one set difference right at the end?
I think it's just making sure that you keep your head really, as in there can be that, okay, I'm going to go all out and finish the game and knock every player off the court and bring them down. But actually, sometimes it just takes that step back, and you don't have to play frantic dodgeball. It has to be that calm and precise game. In that you'll need to play really energetic, and sometimes you have to win quickly to win that. Quite often it's that you just need to take your foot off the pedal a little bit and have a look at the perspective and have a look at the clock. Can you run the clock down by playing more tactically, or do you need to finish and see sets out? And I think sometimes where that panic sets in, or that kind of, oh my gosh, like we've got 2.5 minutes left and we have to see the set or anything like that, it's just making sure that right tactical decision is made without just making sure that the precise players there. But I think especially in that Italy game, and then also in our Croatia game that we only lost by 2 sets as well, was especially gutting. I think that one it just takes a lot, and I think when the other team is still so calm and level-headed all the way to the end, that's sometimes when you can lose it, and it's the battle of the calm, I think, sometimes on the court.
You mentioned that the Croatia game was especially gutting. Did you guys have any goals going into this as mixed team? Like Abbas said, about they wanted to be hitting those heights of kind of the mid-range. Did Ireland have the same? Did you achieve those goals?
So especially when the groups were released, we thought, actually, we can do this. We've either beaten all these teams before, we think we could beat them. And I remember actually listening to the podcast before on the way out to Euros and thinking, yeah, I think it's really similar. It's between a couple of teams for that spot, and it ended up being almost the 4 teams that it could have been out of to take those top 2 positions. It was really, really tight. And yeah, I think it was against, as much as we only lost by 1 set to Italy and 2 to Croatia, I think Croatia ended up for us. It felt like the tighter game. Like it was really level, like it was kind of 1-1-1 back and forwards. So our goal was to get through to the quarters, which we obviously did not. And it would have been that couple of sets. And I think, in the future, if we were to go back and do it again, I don't think we necessarily would have changed as much how we played. But I think just going in and how we would prepare mentally for those games might be a little bit different in structure.
Yeah, looking ahead, obviously, we've got the regional Euros next year. So you guys in the Northern Europeans? Yes. Yeah, so obviously playing in different sort of teams there. So have you got sort of like goals that you want to hit for that championship?
I think, again, it's going to be looking at our teams as well. We want to really build the Ireland squad. The association is looking to really build. I think we're trying to increase our players, and hopefully we can send a couple of teams in each category, if possible, to the tournament. And I think just playing our best and doing what we can there and seeing what comes out of it. I think for Ireland, it's as you said earlier, coming 14th last year, and it was actually 14th the time before as well. So to go 14, 14, 11, we are really stepping it up. And I think we showed that at this tournament. So I think it will just be playing our best on the court, and hopefully, again, win some, and we can take a couple of losses, but it's all about building for us.
And then looking towards Worlds, I mean, obviously Ireland did send a team to Canada last year, which was fair to say a mammoth effort by the team at the tournament. But would that be something that will you be looking to try and compete across both divisions in terms of cloth and foam, or are you going to be more focused this time and just go for those cloth divisions?
Oh, well, we won't have a repeat of Worlds from last time. That is for sure. For those of you that don't know, we decided to fill 5 categories out of 6, which weren't even all fill the people on the court at the time, because we just couldn't man it. When we kind of put feelers out, we had a lot of people that were ready to go, and just for lots of different reasons, we ended up having slightly less, and we did withdraw one team, and then even mid-tournament, I think we withdrew another one, but it was such a difficult decision. But we just thought, oh, you know what, it's Worlds, we might not be expecting the gold medal, so let's go and compete and everything, and just see what it's like, and put our badge on the map, really, to get that ranking. We won't be doing the same. But as I said, for the NECs, we're hoping to send as many teams as we can and as many players, and get experience, especially in our development squad that we've got back in the Republic. It's made up of players who are almost there. They just need that bit more experience, with a bit more training time. So especially with building those teams, if we can take more to the NECs and then also more to Worlds, whether that's in foam or in cloth, will then help build us in our numbers and those experience. Because actually sometimes for Euros, it is even just the experience and the mammoth kind of output of being there, and kind of managing your body and yourself and your mind and eating and etc., that can really have such an impact. So I think just looking forward and getting as many people over as we can in a sensible manner. As much as it was absolutely fantastic, and I don't have any regrets about it. It was a lot, and the experience won't be repeated.
Too much dodgeball. There's no such thing. I think you're lying there. although I did hear about the efforts that went in, and well, you definitely did put the badge on the map, didn't you? By the sounds of it. So good on you guys. I guess one last question in terms of your mixed Euros run, going into that 9th-12th fight. It's still knockout dodgeball at that point. You had a tough game against Sweden, losing by 4 sets, but then did the reverse on France and won by 4 sets there. So I'm especially interested in that French game, because I think they're a solid team, and to get a good result like that, must be very happy with that. But also, what was it like playing against them from your perspective?
I think when we looked at the team, we knew that it was maybe a lot of developing players, but they have such a strong core squad that they've had from previous anyway. It was just making sure that we knew, that we're going to play our game and we're not going to play their game. We talked about the types of things that they train their players in, a lot of catches, fast, and the speed of their players is quite strong. We knew that they had bigger arms on the wings as well, but not to underestimate any of them as catchers. But I think just going in, we knew that our running counters are quite strong. We also had, some single balls that were going well for us, and taking those single catches where they were needed. They won a couple of sets early on as well, and it was right, okay, just keep calm, don't panic about it. And then, as we just got into the groove, we found our game, and that was it, really. It was quite high tension, especially with a couple of sets to go, when it was in that kind of the decider point of what I was talking about earlier. Do you ramp it up, do you not? And I think France decided to, and they were really trying to smash out the sets, but taking that step back and being really calm and thorough in how we play. The Republic definitely, I think showed, and we came out on top.
Very nice. Any last questions or anything else you'd like to add before we close off?
Can you make April 2025 come any sooner?
Of course, yeah. Well, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. We are looking forward to it.
Yeah, as are we. So yeah, we'll hopefully be building our team at trials and our open training sessions in the next couple of weeks and months. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Right, cheers, Meg. Have a good one. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Next up, we're welcoming Robin from Belgium and the Belgium mixed team. Hey, Robin, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. And how was Euros from your perspective? I guess we'll start with the same questions we did for the others. How was warming up and leading up to Euros? Especially, I know you guys had some friendlies with some neighboring countries. So, how was that as well? How did you find it all?
We actually only had a friendly game against the Netherlands because we work closely together. The languages also are mostly the same for most of our team. And there we saw that we did improve from last year, but we still lost quite badly against the Netherlands. And after the group stage, not after group stage, after the polls, we saw that we had quite a terrible pool ahead of us with England, France, and the Czech Republic to face. So we made the decision to make some swaps with the men. Kind of last moment, like only a month before the Euro started. Yeah, and that led to some discussions, and also the fact that not all players were able to play well together as much as they could have. But in the end, I believe we have grown a lot, especially each person has grown a lot because of the experience. We also had a lot of new players with us again. But I think we kind of went the same route as the Netherlands did last year. Used a mixed, more of a development team, and put all our marbles in the men's team, which definitely paid off. If you look at our results, that's like we're really proud of it. And for the mixed, we did some great things. In the first day, we had to face England. That's of course a battle we thought we knew we weren't going to beat them. And then the second day against Czechia and France, I had prepared a lot to play against Czechia because that would have been the team to beat. But then we hear that they beat France and they put up a good fight against England, and well, yeah, my whole plan fell kind of in the water. So France became the team to beat. But then again, against France, the hits didn't really get through. The catches were always like fumbles. It was just a bad luck across the board. And against Czechia, we played actually really well. Seeing where they ended up. So I'm proud of my team there. And then for the rest of the remaining tournament, we played really well. And the main takeaway I have as a coach is it's mainly to play your own game rather than trying to play into theirs to counter theirs. That's the main takeaway I have as a coach. It was also my first year as a coach for the national team. Here in Belgium, I've done quite a few already, but it's on a whole different level, I noticed.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely had a hard group. You had second in mixed, second, fourth, and fifth in your group. So that's a real tough. That's a real tough group to be fighting in. But yeah, so I mean, you had a relatively tough group stages, but like you say, went as well as possibly could have hoped. But from those groups, when you went into the knockouts, what was the biggest? Did you make any big changes, like coaching wise, in between when you were looking ahead?
Yeah, we decided, at least me and my assistant coach, we decided to try to play our game. What we practiced during all those months, like this was the year we had the most time to prepare because the Euros fell a bit later than normal. We had 6 months, I believe, and we trained really well. On trainings, everything went well, and then we said like, let's just implement what we learned and then we saw, like it was already improving a lot. So yeah. Especially the last game against Switzerland, that was, I think, the best game as a coach. It ended up, I believe, 15 against and 17 for Switzerland. But I believe we barely lost any sets in the second half. So that's just amazing to see as a coach how a team can really get that mindset of, we're winning. And then you can see, like, if we only had that game in the beginning of the knockout phases, we might have ended up playing better against Wales and had a more decent score. Like, I believe 5-27. You're not gonna suddenly switch that by having better mental, but it could have been way closer than that, of course.
Yeah, because obviously a really hard group. It's one of those things that you can sometimes use that to your advantage to learn a lot and kind of try out some new tactics. So obviously it's tough, but was that something that you tried to take from those games?
Well, the main takeaway is mostly from the videos afterwards, from the live streams. There we can really, when you're on the court, it's really difficult to learn on the spot, get to know what they do right then and there. But I've already looked at videos of the replays, the matches we played, and of course the mixed games from the finals as well. And we've already learned things from those teams, and we're already implementing them in our trainings already. So hopefully we can take that to the Western European Championships in March and use them there and do better.
When it comes to kind of the mindset, especially when you're in that group where you're with England, who have historically been very strong, Czechia, who are kind of resurgent, they've been performing amazingly. What was kind of the mindset shift, between playing in those games where you're kind of backs against the wall and it's a real struggle, against playing in a game like your Switzerland game where it comes down to a final set or it comes down to one set between you and you really have a chance to kind of pull out of the bag? And how was the difference from a coaching perspective as well? Because those are so totally different perspectives and situations to be in.
Yeah, I think the main thing you have to do as a coach when you face teams like England and Czechia is just to keep your players' heads up, so they don't experience it necessarily as a loss, but rather than like a gain in experience. And they need to have fun on the field foremost. Like the game against England, I told them to not look at the score at all. Like, it doesn't matter if we lose 20-0 or even 60-0, as long as if you've had fun and you learn from it, it's the most important thing. I changed that mindset in the knockout phases because those games should be more feasible for us. And then you saw that the sets were coming in finally. And that also helps with the mindset and the group mentality. When you get those sets, you tend to have a bit more fun than playing against England. And but the main takeaway, I think, for most of the players, we went into this group phase with, we're probably going to end last, and we're going to put all our efforts in those last 2 days. And I believe every single one of my team, of my players, did that, and they didn't expect too much from those first 2 games in terms of wins. And I believe that's a very mature thing to do as well. Like, everybody has the dream to beat England as a super underdog, but it's just a mature kind of point of view to notice when you're not going to win, to just have fun and get experience when you can. Same thing we're probably going to do at Worlds as well. if we have the same group. We're hoping to play against more international teams. But yeah, that still remains to be seen, of course.
Yeah, and I guess going into that knockout stages, because you would have found out who you were going to be playing the night before. Did you manage to do sort of any preparation to kind of look at the teams you were going to play, or was it just we're just going to play the gameplay that we are comfortable with, and that will kind of see us through?
Yeah, there was the latter was the main takeaway. Like, of course, we looked at the games the day before, like who might we end up against, and then we just like looked at who are their strong players, what might work against them. But indeed, like I said, we had a good team. I think we just needed to play a bit more what we learned, how we practiced. And yeah, I think that's was the most important thing, and we really started doing that against Switzerland. Unfortunately, a bit too late, because I think if we had like 2 more sets in it, we would have won. But too bad.
Nice. And I guess I have, one other question, like from my perspective. How's dodgeball growing in Belgium? Like, what's your perspective on mixed and the other men's and women's? How are you finding dodgeball in Belgium? Is it growing? Are you getting good numbers coming in? Do you have hope for the future?
Yeah, the dodgeball in Belgium is actually growing quite rapidly. Just in our club alone, I believe we had more than 20 new subscriptions. That's basically 2 whole teams that just applied for us. And then there's another club on the rising as well that might join us next year. I believe Brussels is going to start a youth program. And I think that's fantastic, because that's the way you keep a sport alive. You can't always rely on just adults to join you. If you start young, you keep the sport alive. And obviously they will be better. I started playing dodgeball when I believe I was 20 years old, and I can just imagine how it would have been if I would have started at 11 or 12. Like, it would have been, I would have probably been way better. And for the rest, all other clubs have grown as well. I don't know the exact numbers, but they obviously haven't shrunk. So yeah, I think we will have a bigger pool of people to choose from for next year's, and I hope the sports keeps on growing. That we have a club in every major city. I think that's the main goal for now, and then it will be a matter of spreading out into the smaller suburbs and smaller cities as well.
Nice. Any other questions from anyone? Any other thoughts? Or is there anything else you want to cover, Robin?
I just wanted to congratulate the teams, like Czechia and Spain in particular. It's like the dream we had as well, especially for Spain ending up in 4th. That's just amazing. Certainly when you look at their men's and women's team, that didn't end up quite as high. I really wonder how their thought process was, and I hope we get to talk to them on the Western European Championships to figure out what they did and how they did it, and maybe we can copy it if they're willing to share, of course. But yeah, that's my take on it.
Nice. Well, thank you very much, and wishing you all the best for next year, for regional Euros and for Worlds, and of course see you guys in Ireland in 2025. Right, so I think we're going to do a quick roundup of mixed in general beyond the 3 nations that we've just discussed, with Netherlands, Belgium, and Ireland, or Republic of Ireland. I guess looking at the other part of the table, which is the sort of the top 8, I think there are a lot of and I mean this in a good way, like surprise entries into the top 8 from years before, especially I'd say Croatia topping Pool A and getting through, and Spain getting all the way through to the semis. I mean, what were your guys' thoughts on the rest of the tournament for mixed?
For me, it was really interesting to see everybody's different approaches, because you had sort of some teams using it as a development opportunity with kind of like France and Switzerland. And you had other teams that were going, you know what, we're going all out, and mixed is our focus, and that's where we're putting our strongest players, which is kind of what Spain and Croatia did. And you could see how that really paid off for them. And it's for countries that are just starting out and they don't have kind of a depth of squad across their men's and women's divisions, it's actually quite a good strategy, because it means that they can get one of their teams as far through the tournament as possible. And that was really nice to see somebody seeing it in sort of a different way.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. I was really surprised about, aside from the top 3, it was very surprising how the nations finished up, and you couldn't expect it from the beginning. Obviously Spain you couldn't expect. Obviously Croatia, I think nobody had on the radar to make the top 8. So that was really good to see. And I would agree. To a certain degree, some nations don't put their best players into the mix just because they're not big enough yet, or they don't want to have their best players play double, for instance. But eventually, this is going to happen, because you see it at the top level that the top nations, they use their best players for both categories. So this will eventually happen with everybody, and eventually the mixed competition will have, to a certain degree, the same players that are also in the men's and the mixed, but we will see when that's the case. Maybe 2025, let's see.
Yeah, and then looking at that kind of top 3 and the trio of England, Austria, and Northern Ireland, what a final we had! First of all, that was insanely excellent. It was a pleasure to commentate. I think it was the first final to ever go to a sudden death final, which was mind-boggling. And just to touch on it, is that it just shows you how close it now is at that top level. And you would have thought that Northern Ireland would have had it after their performance last year, beating Austria kind of half comfortably twice, and then Austria coming out on top against England in the semis in Dragton. But just to know that it is kind of that rotating door of any one of them could step out and just go, I'm the king of, or I'm the king or queen of mixed, which is, as much as we do talk about kind of your 4 to 10, it's lovely to see that there's no longer one team that just happily sits on top, and it is a competition throughout, because 1 to 3 you can't decide, 4 to 10 you can no longer decide, and then it will start getting 10 to 20 will be also a mix up when we get some of the other nations finally getting down and performing at Euros. So just across the board, it's turning into a proper pot of it's no longer one team's going to win, and that's exactly excellent for the sport and the competitiveness of the sport.
I would definitely agree. The experience that I personally made is that the top 3 nations, they seem to each year learn from one another, depending on who won or who lost, with the mindset of, okay, now we lost by maybe 2 sets, 3 sets. Why did we do that? Try to eliminate mistakes, try to eliminate errors in the tactics or in the strategies, come back and turn it around. Then this nation wins, and the other nation has the same thought process, right? So like, okay, why did we lose this time? And it keeps going back and forth, and ultimately with that, just elevating the level and the quality of the games to a level that made the gap to the 4th to 10th place, because there is clearly a difference, because none of the top 3 had any struggles in their way to the semis and to the final against other nations. But then those games were open as hell. So the semifinal between Austria and Northern Ireland, I would say this was the game, in my personal opinion, but I'm biased because I was in it as a coach. But this was, from a level and from a quality, the best mixed dodgeball game I have ever witnessed, personally. because there were so few, if any, mistakes on both sides, and each set was just decided by, okay, who's gonna take risk first, and everything else was like, okay, this is, you cannot hit him when he has a board in hand. You have to be selectful with your double board attacks because then you give away 4 boards. How often can you risk it? How good is it? How good are they blocking and dodging when you go with 2 boards against them? But on both sides, not just from us. So this back and forth, it was on a level that I have never experienced. So that was really, really fun to see. And the final, obviously, the final was also very good on a top level, but there were more mistakes on both sides, rather than in the Austrian Northern Ireland game, at least in my opinion. And therefore, it was like, okay, can we take advantage of this mistake, or can England take advantage of this mistake that we just made? And this was kind of that game. It was a bit more from a chess perspective, rather than from a just purely no mistakes competition perspective. But both games very close and very insane at the end.
I mean, I'd also put into that pot the England-Scotland game and the Spain-Northern Ireland game. That England-Scotland game, it wasn't.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't quite as, like you say, a tactical masterpiece as Northern Ireland Austria, but it was intensely close, which I think is, on top of that, like 4-8 not being predictable. I think this is what we're starting to see is, a few teams mixing it up with it, where they're ending. Like even Spain really gave Northern Ireland a run for their money in that 3rd, 4th playoff. Like it wasn't until the final like six sets that
But
Northern
they
Ireland really
did
turned
do
it
a little bit of rotation on the players, right? So I think, at least from what I saw, partly is that they put in some new players for that game, at least in the beginning, to give the men a little bit more rest for the final. But yeah, again, so Spain, obviously, there's no doubt about it, the surprise of the tournament. I think you could have won a lot of money, at least against me, if you said Spain would have finished 4th.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I think that's it for the mix, unless anyone else has anything else to cover.
I did want to mention, as you touched on the England-Scotland game, Scotland only made out of groups based on the fact that Hungary had beaten Wales, Wales had beaten Scotland, Scotland had beaten Hungary, and they'd all lost to Austria. And then Scotland then pushed England to a final overtime set. So we talk about kind of the top 10, but I don't think, I'm fairly certain either Hungary or Wales doesn't fall under that top 10 because they didn't make it out of groups. Yet they still Wales still beat the Scotland team that pushed England to an overtime set. So even with these results, the luck of the draw just happens, and we've seen that some teams get a nicer run, some would say, but even then, it's still incredibly close, and any team can be kind of shooting their way to the final if they perform.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, good, very close all-round competition for the mixed, and gives us sort of a taste of what was there for all the Euros rounds.